It is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is the chairman of the Los Angeles Republican Party. You can follow her on X at Roxanne Hogue. Chairwoman Roxanne Hogue, welcome.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me, even from Santa Fe. Hi, Randy.
Hi, Roxanne.
So you are a party insider. You're the chair of the party in Los Angeles. This weekend, Republicans met in San Diego as part of their annual state convention to determine whether or not they would endorse candidates in certain races. And they endorsed Lieutenant Governor. They endorsed my pal, former Senator Gloria Romero. They endorsed in any number of other offices. One they left blank was for governor. They did not endorse Steve Hilton. They did not endorse Chad Bianco. What is your take on that decision?
This is like Christmas in July. This is good news. Look, the Democrats who normally get to run roughshod over everybody, including, by the way, putting their thumb on the scale in this crazy top two system we have, we both know that one of the ways that Gavin Newsom got where he got was to advertise for a Republican he could beat instead of having to face Antonio Villaraigosa, who back then was actually a force to be reckoned with. So this time, there's 61 names on the ballot for governor, and a large number of them are Democrats. And their party chair and their party could not get the clown card all come together for one person. They tried for Swalwell. Remember, they were all in for Swalwell, but that meant that they would have to ask the people of color to drop out. So that didn't go anywhere. Well, the fact that we got out of our, I think 12 nominal Republicans are on the ballot, we have two strong candidates who have been neck and neck, and not endorsing in the race is actually the right move if you're playing chess and not checkers.
Now with Eric Swalwell out of the race, we don't know exactly where his supporters will end up. They could go to the top two Democrats in the race, Tom Steyer and Katie Porter. They could go to some of the lower performing Democrats. I know Matt Mahan has been raising a lot of money in recent days. Certainly Antonio Villaraigosa has high name ID. Javier Becerra was a federal official in the Biden administration. And I'm sure those campaigns hope that some of those supporters end up supporting them. At this point, who do you think benefits the most from Swalwell not being in the race?
Well, first of all, we have to pay attention to one of those vagaries in California politics that all the national people that have been opining have missed. Swalwell's name is still on the ballot. He could pull 5, 6, even up to 9%. I mean, everyone isn't going to know these allegations. And so I say he still gets a chunk of voters. As to where the ones who are in go, they're still trying to make Mac Mahan a thing, but there's no such thing as a moderate Democrat. He may think he's a moderate Democrat. He may be trying to occupy that lane, but the truth is that all elected California Democrats are just meat puppets for public sector unions. So he won't govern anything close to that. And so I think people are going to be suspicious of that. Porter, boy, I feel like that goose is cooked already. Second look at Villaraigosa, Becerra. I see more of a spread. Ballots are dropping in 22 days. What do you think?
Well, I think in the short term, Katie Porter and Tom Steyer will benefit. However, we keep hearing information that there are going to be videos that drop on Katie Porter. They're going to cause her a lot of problems, and then we may reshuffle the deck yet again. And speaking of which, there was just a tweet that went out on X that I'd like to read to you and have you respond to. This post on X comes courtesy of Florida Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. Here is what she wrote moments ago. Quote, I'm told there will be more disgusting stuff coming out on Swalwell in the next 24 hours. For the members of Congress who are concerned about optics on expelling Swalwell, I think after the information drops, you will be thinking otherwise. Eric, why don't you tell us a little bit about who was filming the video of the female sex worker? End quote.
Ouch.
I guess this is an implication that the person who was filming the sex tape is famous too.
Well, and the person who was, there are a lot of people in that room, first of all, like, people, please. I can't believe this is happening from our purported leaders. There's not enough popcorn to get through this week. And I think you're right about Katie Porter in that she's kind of like Hillary. The more you hear from her, the less you like her. So yes, in the short term, Porter will benefit, and then people will hear her voice, learn about the mashed potatoes, hear her scream, Paul, and let go. As to this video, which it's repulsive and yet like a train wreck, you can't quite pull your eyes away from it. It's going to not be good for anyone.
I'd like to read you 3 additional tweets, and these are from journalists and Democratic Party insiders regarding whether or not they knew that Eric Swalwell was a cad before all of these stories broke on Friday. Here is what some of them had to say. This is Stephen Tavares. He is the author of East Bay Insiders, which is a publication that covers politics in Northern California. He tweeted, quote, I've covered Eric Swalwell since he was a member of the Dublin City Council. Shortly after being elected to Congress in 2013, his behavior towards women was known by all levels of our local government and the Alameda County Democratic Party, end quote. Longtime Democratic Party campaign strategist Bree Gillis took to Twitter, responding to the allegations against Swalwell, and wrote, quote, anyone who's been in D.C. for 5 minutes knows this. It's actually wild it took this long, end quote. An independent journalist, Yashar Ali, echoed that sentiment when he posted, quote, it's because they've all known for years. It has been an open secret, and I don't say that as a guess, end quote. Given the fact that all of the Democratic Party power brokers allegedly knew about this, according to strategists and journalists who cover Eric Swalwell, why in the world did they have the poor judgment to get behind him for governor when they knew that he was a man of low character and they knew that there was a threat that this information would bubble up to the surface?
2 things. They don't care about men of low character. They care about winning. And they couldn't take the threat seriously because they haven't had to face any consequences before now. I mean, there's also a reporter on the Hill who said, sexual harassment wasn't my beat, so I didn't report on it, even though I reported about the Chinese spy thing with Eric Swalwell. I mean, Brian Stetler said, well, this story has been broken wide open by great investigative journalism. What? They have all known. They have always known. And it wasn't a secret at all. Look at the man and just that. His face looks like someone who's up for the next Geico caveman commercial. Like there's no woman I know that would be like, oh yeah, let me get next to that. So there is no honor among thieves, and they just have such incredible hubris. They don't think they'll ever have to answer questions, which is why, by the way, they don't do well on the national stage. That's why Kamala Harris didn't get a single delegate on her own when she ran for president, because they're not forged in fire exactly here in California, right? It's a great big soft and cuddly bath until you cycle through your offices of assembly and state senate and then Congress and then governor. And then you think, oh, I can do no wrong. But the truth is they've never taken a punch.
What's wild is they benefited from the fact that this story broke before the voting began. Because let's just look at the future if he was not exposed on Friday. He was the leading Democrat in the polls. So there was a good chance, if this scandal story didn't break, that we could have ended up with a November ballot that featured Eric Swalwell and one of the Republicans. It's crazy to think what the Democrats would have done had they been left with that scenario, given what we now know about him.
I have no doubt in my mind they would have been all in on him anyway. They they have proven that, dead candidate, depraved candidate, disgusting candidate, they're fine with that. I mean, if you just listen to what they've been saying for the last 2 months, as became clear that Hilton and Bianco were sort of neck splitting the 40% of the electorate that has common sense left in California. They've written op-eds. Paul Mitchell has said, we can't allow 2 Republicans to make it to the top 2. That would be terrible. They had no such concerns when our choices were between, an actual commie in Kevin De Leon and a Weekend at Bernie's candidate in Dianne Feinstein. By the way, I went with the Weekend at Bernie's candidate because, you have to choose the lesser of 2 evils. So they've had no concerns about what top 2 has done for real choice in California elections in the decade plus that we've had Prop 14. But now, all of a sudden, the thought that there might be a choice between 2 people who both espoused good governance was more than they could take.
Given the shape of the race right now, do you believe that this is the field of candidates who will be actively campaigning by the time the ballots go out? Or do you think we could see a scenario where more drop off?
Again, they'll all be on the ballot. I believe there's some juicy, fun stuff happening to Becerra's chief of staff in the legal world. Someone, I think Mike Trujillo, who is really a great new follow on Twitter for me, who's a Dem strategist, pointed out that there's by the end of this week, there's going to be a court date in that whole little, fraudulent campaign finance violation trial that's coming up for Gavin's besties. So, watch this space. I think things are going to move a lot more in the intervening 22 days before ballots actually drop.
Well, particularly when the leading 2 Democrats who are now left in the race, Katie Porter and Tom Steyer, the Democratic Party, the power brokers in the Democratic Party don't like either of them. Because you have Katie Porter, who broke bad on Nancy Pelosi and other members in Congress. She was someone who wouldn't play nice with others. And there's no love lost between Pelosi and with Katie Porter. Katie Porter ran against Pelosi's favorite, Adam Schiff, for U.S. Senate. They were not happy with her when she did that. They didn't want her to run for governor. She ran for governor. So she is certainly not their favorite. Tom Steyer is a billionaire who really doesn't like Israel. And billionaires can't be told what to do. If billionaires are involved in politics and they win a race, they're known for not playing nice with others. And if he were to get elected, I could very easily see him being like that crazy congressman from Michigan, Sri Thatcher, or whatever his name is, who's got the wig and the drawn-on eyebrows. And he was just a rich guy who bought a congressional seat in Michigan. And he does the exact opposite of what the Democratic Party wants him to do frequently. But they can't control him because he can outspend anyone who runs against him. And in politics, frequently that means you have a better shot at winning. I think Tom Steyer would be cut from that same cloth. And if you're the Democratic Party, that doesn't do you any favors.
It doesn't, and you're forgetting the dark horse who blew up the USC debate because Rick Caruso wanted him included. Before this happened, Matt Mahan's supporters were offering sort of a 2-for-1 special, like donate for us now, we'll put it in escrow and we'll get him across the finish line. So watch that space too, right? Mahan is trying to claim that he's a moderate Dem, again, no such thing, while eating his cake and having it too and saying, we'll find a way to make high-speed rail work. No, just buy everyone a couple tickets on Southwest and call it a day. So there is a lot of money, and you're right, money has a big impact, but if it was just money, we would have had Governor Meg Whitman and Mayor Rick Caruso. So it's anybody's game.
In all the elections that you've been involved in, have you ever seen one as crazy as this at the state level?
No, because what normally happens is there's 1 or 2 clear Dem frontrunners, and they always have enough spare cash to elevate someone that they view as eminently beatable, and they'll advertise for them. And by the way, I've seen them do this in assembly races, in state senate races. Back in 2018, Bob Hertzberg was facing an eloquent, young, good-looking, articulate person who was a young man who was, endorsed by the Daily News. Howard he was, ascendant, but still the math was not great. And just in case, he spent a ton of money, and they all spent a ton of money to advertise on Fox News in the last 2 weeks to get our side to go, oh, look, squirrel, and vote for someone that they have viewed as beatable. And my advice to not just Republicans, but anyone who wants good governance in California, who doesn't want to have to leave, who wants their kids to be able to afford housing, your ballot will arrive at your home, apartment, wherever your mail comes to, around May the 4th. Fill it out that week. Sign up for ballot tracks, get it in the mail, use a ballot drop box, take it to the registrar, use carrier pigeon. I don't care what method, but you get your vote in that first 10 days of the election, because the other thing that Democrats do is overwhelm the mail-in vote so that everybody sees on the news, oh my goodness, 1 million Democrats already returned their ballots. Boo-hoo, I'm not going to bother to go line up on election day. Our election ends on June 2nd. If you're invited to a party that goes from 6 to 8 and you show up at 8, you're not getting a drink or a snack or anything. So the minute you get your ballot, get out there and vote. Let's actually play chess instead of checkers for once.
We have another post on X that just came through. This is reporting from the publication Prospect. They have confirmed that the victims of Swalwell were going to come forward during his 2020 presidential run, but he dropped out, so they decided not to, which leads to the question, why did you let him continue serving in Congress for 6 more years?
Wow. I mean, here's the thing. I feel for, and politics runs on mostly young, idealistic people who are all, it's very analogous, by the way, to the Harvey Weinstein story, right? Everyone's desperate to get ahead, and they are told, like, this is the kingmaker, this is what you need to do. And people who should be protecting them, who should be older and know better, don't. And that is a crying shame. But there's a real consequence to not playing ball with gross people. I mean, in my former life, I was, a journeyman actor who had, shall we say, opportunities to be cozy with people. And I was like, gross, get out of my face. And therefore, I was just a journeyman actor. And I'm okay with that. But a lot of people don't have the backbone to do that. And that's really sad.
Roxanne Hogue, chair of the Los Angeles County Republican Party. You can follow her on X at Roxanne Hogue. Chairwoman Hogue, thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, John, for being on top of this story like all of California politics. Appreciate you.
Thank you.